Hi, I'm Celina. My mom left me a message on my bathroom mirror. You're not pretty enough to be a bride. Expect a refund lawsuit. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. But 36 hours later, I realized they'd already planned to erase me. My sister wore my dress, my money paid for the wedding, and I was called the sponsor like some distant donor. They didn't kick me out. They replaced me and smiled while doing it. But the real story isn't what they did, it's what I did next. I got to the house earlier than I said I would. Old habits. Growing up, I used to come through the side door, the one that doesn't squeak. I still remembered where the key sticks, which tile creaks. There's something strange about returning to a place that raised you and realizing it no longer recognizes you. It was too quiet. No kettle. No jazz radio humming low in the background. No shuffling of my mother's slippers on the hardwood floor. Just filtered morning light cutting across the walls through the plantation shutters. Still warm, but unfamiliar. The air smelled cleaner than it used to. Sanitized almost. I placed the RSVP envelopes on the counter, along with 2 sample invitations that hadn't been picked up. I hadn't heard back from anyone. That should have told me something. I was heading toward the back to leave a fabric swatch in the guest bathroom. That's when I saw it. In the mirror, red lipstick, my mother's shade. The words were sharp, exact. You're not pretty enough to be a bride. Expect a refund lawsuit. I froze. It didn't register right away. At first, I thought maybe it was a note left for someone else. A joke. A passive dig. I stepped closer. No name, no greeting. Just that sentence. I reached for a tissue, smudged it, made it worse. My reflection fractured behind the smear. Years ago, I stood in this very spot, face flushed, tears rolling after a school dance. My mother dabbed at my eyes in this mirror, said, "You'll learn not to expect too much from people." I never thought that people would eventually include her. I stared at myself longer than I ever had before, not crying, not blinking, just absorbing. Then I picked up my phone, typed one word. Understood. Sent it. To her. I didn't follow up with a call. I didn't ask why, because I already knew. They say if you react, you're dramatic. If you stay silent, they say you agreed. Either way, the story isn't yours. So I walked out the same door. Didn't close it. Didn't care. The air outside hit harder than I expected. The warmth of Savannah wrapped around me like something I no longer belonged to. I sat in my car, keys still in hand, and that's when it came through. A buzz. A message. From her. Meant for someone else. We did the right thing. Celina never had the right look for a public wedding. That broke something, not because I didn't know she thought it, but because she never expected I'd read it. It wasn't anger I felt. Not yet. It was that sharp snap in your chest when a truth finally stops pretending. They didn't change their minds. They never included me in the plan to begin with. This wasn't personal. It was practical. Calculated. I let the message sit open on my screen, brightness dimming. My hand rested on the steering wheel, but I didn't turn the key. They didn't just cancel a wedding, I whispered out loud. They erased a version of me I spent years building. All those dinners where I deferred. The holidays where I sat at the kids' table into my 20s. The decisions I handed over to keep the peace. A counselor once told me, "Silence is noble until it becomes self-erasure." That line rang louder than the air conditioning. I tightened my grip on the wheel, not because I was about to drive, but because I had to stop myself from going back in and asking, what the hell did I ever do to deserve this? I didn't. That night, I went home and opened my laptop, started a folder, named it, The Record, dragged in a screenshot of the text, a photo of the mirror, the RSVP cards, no captions, no explanation. If they were building a case, I'd give them something to file. I didn't plan on going to the brunch. I stared at the invitation for 2 full days before deciding. It wasn't really an invitation anyway. It was a group-forwarded email from one of my mother's friends. Still, I showed up. Not because I wanted to be there. I just wanted to see how far they'd gone without me. The house belonged to an old family acquaintance, someone who'd hosted our church's summer socials for years. Magnolia trees framed the driveway, like they were trying to hold in secrets. Inside, everything smelled of lemon polish and expectation. Savannah brunches are a battlefield, smiles lined with blade edges. I walked in wearing gray, neutral, no attention asked, no attention paid. The rooms were filled with familiar faces, but they all blinked a little too slowly when they saw me, like they had to search their memory to place me. I got a few hugs, some polite hellos, but no one asked how I was doing. Not one person mentioned the wedding. No congratulations. Not even a "when's the big day?" I wasn't seated at the head table. I was placed at the far end, near the serving dishes, between a woman who only remembered me as Marjorie's quiet one and a teenager who spent the entire meal scrolling TikTok. Then came the album. "Today," the host announced, "we celebrate legacy, generations of grace in the Monroe family." The lights dimmed slightly, the projector hummed. A slideshow began. Baby photos, school plays, birthday cakes with candles shaped like numbers. Tamsin showed up on nearly every slide. Graduation, dance recitals, her sweet 16, her college formal, her first job at the realtor's office, Marjorie smiling beside her in every other shot. The room cooed and clapped. Then, briefly, twice, I appeared, once holding a pie at Thanksgiving, once blurred in the corner of a 4th of July picnic. No captions, no mention. A child across the room pointed. "Who's that lady?" The woman beside him squinted, leaned toward the screen, and said, "Oh, I didn't know they had 3 daughters." I didn't flinch, but something inside my chest folded. When they erase your name long enough, I thought, even you start forgetting who you were supposed to be. I kept the smile on my face, that church smile, the kind where you look like you're listening but you're already somewhere else. This wasn't new. It was just now public. And I knew then, this wedding thing, this sudden shift, it wasn't a rupture. It was the final scene in a script they'd been rehearsing for years. My mother had never yelled, never punished. She redirected, reassigned, made room for one daughter by shrinking the other into corners. Tamsin always stood in the center of photos. I was always adjusting someone's collar off camera. My name was on checks, not on cards. My input was in budgets, not on banners. I didn't want revenge. I wanted a record. I excused myself, walked toward the guest bathroom. The hallway was still lined with porcelain angels. Inside, the mirror was spotless. No red lipstick this time. Just a reflection I wasn't ready to forgive. I took out my lipstick, my shade, not hers. Nude matte, practical. On the inside of my palm I wrote, "Say less, remember more." Then I pulled out my phone and hit record. Memo 2, brunch. Family doesn't always hit you. Sometimes they just forget to count you. I paused. Maybe that's worse. Click. This wasn't for a blog, not for a post. I was building something private, a log, my own version of history, not loud, not angry, just detailed. "If I'm being erased," I whispered, "I'll write a version they can't delete." When I returned to my seat, I didn't try to jump into conversation. I observed, measured responses, noted the expressions, how my mother laughed extra loud at Tamsin's jokes, how she introduced her to a guest as our golden girl. I took another bite of my oversalted eggs and waited for the closing prayer. As I stood to leave, I walked past the buffet where 2 women chatted in hushed voices, old friends of Marjorie's. One of them leaned closer to the other and said, just loud enough for me to hear, "Well, Anna just looks more like a bride. Some girls are made for the aisle, some for behind the scenes." I didn't flinch. I smiled, nodded politely, and kept walking. But something in me, something that had been waiting, clicked into place. I didn't mean to stop. I was already heading downtown to pick up printer paper when I passed the boutique where I'd first tried on my dress. My name had once been on their chalkboard sign. I used to take the long route home just to drive past and smile. This time, I parked without planning to. I didn't even turn off the engine. Through the glass, I spotted them, Tamsin and my mother, inside, laughing. The kind of laughter that doesn't look staged. The kind they reserve for photos, for church fundraisers, and evidently, for fittings I was never told about. I sat still, hand on the gear shift, unsure whether to drive off or walk in. Then a girl in a black apron, probably a stylist, spotted me, waved like I belonged, and opened the door before I could make up my mind. And so I went in. The air inside smelled like steamer mist and floral perfume. I was greeted with the usual cheerful confusion. "Oh, Arlena! What a surprise!" My mother froze mid-sip. Tamsin stood on the small pedestal, turned halfway in a mirror, zipped into lace I knew too well. Because I picked it, my dress, the same neckline, same sleeves, same ivory tone, not white, not blush, just right. On the rack beside her, another gown, labeled with her name, same measurements, same invoice still on the counter. My card number faint but visible. The boutique manager beamed. "Your sister looks stunning in your original pic. What a blessing to have such similar taste." I didn't say a word, just stepped forward, laid my fingers on the lace. The fabric felt colder than I remembered. You never expect to be ghosted by a garment. No one told me it had been reassigned. No one asked if I'd mind. But I guess when they've already removed your seat at the table, the dress is just another line item. Tamsin tried to soften it. She stepped down carefully, smiled with what she thought was kindness. "You know, you were right about this one," she said. "It moves better than I thought, has more life." Then, quieter, just between us. "I mean, you're classic. I'm more cinematic." Marjorie didn't flinch. She just sipped her tea and adjusted the bracelet on her wrist. I nodded once. Of course. That was it. That was all I gave them. But inside, I was calculating. It wasn't just the words. It was how easily they edited me out of the story and acted like it had always been this way. I excused myself, left the boutique as calmly as I entered. I walked back to my car without breaking stride, though my feet felt heavier with every step. I sat for longer than I'd admit. No music, no calls, just silence pressing against the windows. I thought of all the times I dimmed my own light so they could shine. Thought of the holidays I coordinated, the checks I signed, the things I let slide for the sake of peace. A therapist once told me, "Your invisibility is not humility, it's erasure." Back then, I wasn't ready to hear it. And now I was. I opened my phone, titled a new note. Document number 2, the fitting. Started recording. Voice even, calm, no tremor. They used my dress, my money, and my silence. And they'll say it was a family decision, a shared choice. But I never said yes. I just stopped arguing. That night, I didn't turn on the TV. Didn't open wine. I logged into the bridal vendor portal. I wanted to see something, confirm a suspicion, and there it was, line by line, every detail of the wedding order, table linens, custom invitations, floral batch reassignments, all processed through my original payment card, all changed from Arlena D. to Tamsin J. No notifications sent, no approvals requested. At the bottom of the page, one final update. Tamsin Joelle Monroe, bride. The screen blinked. Auto-refresh. Then a pop-up. Would you like to finalize payment? I didn't click yes. I took a screenshot. Closed the tab. And for the first time since this all began, I didn't feel replaced. I felt ready. Sleep never came that night. My eyes closed, but my mind didn't. It circled back again and again to the boutique, to Tamsin twirling in lace I paid for, to my mother sipping her tea like nothing was out of place. Sometime after midnight, I sat up and opened my laptop, just to check. That's what I told myself. Just a little clarity. No expectations. I logged into my bridal vendor dashboard. The page took a while to load. When it did, the screen didn't look like it used to. My name? Gone. Packages I'd customized? Reassigned. Delivery addresses had shifted. Contacts were updated to list Tamsin Joelle Monroe. But the billing info, the line that mattered, still listed my card, my account. They replaced the label, I muttered. Not the ledger. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I started screenshotting, one by one. Saved each file in a folder I named. Rewrites in real time. By sunrise, the folder was full. I made coffee but didn't touch it. My hands were steady now. My thoughts were precise. At 8 sharp, I called the venue, used a different tone, professional, clipped. I told the coordinator I was calling on behalf of Arlena Dovey. The woman on the line chirped, "Oh yes, we still have the Monroe wedding set for the 12th. Everything's in place under Tamsin Joelle Monroe." I asked her to confirm who made the change. She said, "It was filed internally, a family member, I believe." Then added, like she was complimenting a dinner recipe, "It's sweet your family's so close. Not everyone can pull off a handoff like that." I bit the inside of my cheek. "Would you like to reconfirm the final payment?" she asked. "Not yet," I replied. "We're reviewing names." I hung up slowly. Let the weight of it land. They didn't just steal the wedding. They used what I built to fund it. I opened my banking portal. I already knew what I'd see, but seeing it confirmed something uglier. Recurring charges from vendors I hadn't spoken to in weeks. Some hadn't even delivered yet. I called the bank. I didn't rush, explained everything, gave details, asked for holds to be placed, reversals to begin, fraud flags activated. I wasn't emotional. I was exact. They expected me to fund a fantasy and vanish, I said to the banker. They forgot I'm the accountant in the family. After the call, I printed every receipt, every invoice, every timeline. Started a binder, labeled it Financial Recovery. I wasn't planning revenge. I was preparing a defense. When people rob you quietly, you don't scream. You audit. I didn't call Tamsin, didn't message Marjorie. I let the system do that for me. Within hours, the silence broke. Tamsin's text came first. "Did you freeze the payments? This is serious." Followed by Marjorie. "Your reaction is hurting the family's image. Let's handle this like adults." I said nothing, not a single reply. It's amazing how fast they remember you once your absence causes a problem. That night, while reviewing final chargebacks, I got an email from Ione, no subject, just an image, a screenshot of a group chat titled, "Monroe Wedding Transition, Anna Connor." I didn't even open the image at first. I just stared at the title. When I did, the messages hit like cold water. "Redirect all charges to Monroe family card once Arlena steps back. Back-end logistics handled. Switch floral invoice to Tamsin's name before Monday." And there it was, Marjorie's message. "Arlena won't fight. She never does." She was half right. The lights in my apartment were off. I hadn't bothered to turn them on when I came back. I didn't need brightness. I needed silence. Something solid. Something still. I sat cross-legged on the floor, not quite sure if I was thinking or just breathing. My phone buzzed once. I didn't jump. I didn't even lean toward it. It buzzed again. That second one made me look. It was from Ione. Just a text, no greeting. Just, "Thought you should see this." Attached was a screenshot of a group chat. Title, "Monroe Wedding Transition, Anna Connor." My eyes scanned faster than my brain could process, line after line, words like, "Finalizing Arlena's replacements." "Same caterer, cleaner story." "She's not going to make noise anyway." Then Anna chimed in with, "No more flat lighting. I actually photograph well." Marjorie responded with a heart emoji. There it was. The breath I didn't realize I'd been holding caught halfway up and wouldn't move. My fingers tightened, not from sadness but restraint. I wasn't just being phased out. I was being replaced, seamlessly, by people who once asked me for rides, who borrowed my earrings, who I covered for when they missed mortgage payments. I sat there, reading each message twice. Then a third time. My chest felt full, but not heavy. Full like a box someone taped shut too tight. This wasn't a whim. It wasn't a fight that spiraled. It was a handover they'd been planning for weeks, maybe months. "Simple is elegant," my mother once said. When I picked my dress, when I picked neutral colors, when I picked to stay silent. Now I saw what she really meant. Simple wasn't about beauty. It was about removability. I opened my voice memos, hit record. Memo 3. Transition chat. My voice was level, deliberate. Messages confirm that Tamsin has assumed all bride roles. Comments confirm coordinated replacement. Timeline suggests weeks of prior intent. Tone casual. Intention? Not. I paused, swallowed. Not a meltdown, just a marker. Click. Not 10 minutes after, my phone dinged again. This time it was the photographer, the one I hired. "Hey," he wrote, "sorry to reach out so late. I was told today to remove your name from the files and replace it with Anna's. That didn't sit right. Wanted to check with you directly. You were the original client." He attached mock-ups. My dress. My floral backdrop. But the faces? Tamsin and Connor? I looked at the photos like I'd found a security camera feed of someone robbing my house, and smiling while doing it. But I didn't feel broken. I felt confirmed. "They may control the story," I murmured, "but not the receipt trail." I wrote back. Brief. Thanked him. Asked for all versions of the files, every invoice, communication. Told him to forward anything else they requested. Then I opened my laptop again. Started a new binder. Physical. Printed out the screenshots, emails, photos. Arranged everything by date. Labeled it, "Disappearance in 18 steps." This wasn't revenge. This was record keeping. Reputation defense. Quiet clarity. I looked at my folder, still labeled "The Record," and I realized I wasn't trying to be the bride anymore. I was trying to be undeniable. Later that night, I drafted an email. Simple, legal. I sent it to the top 3 vendors. Blind copied myself. Please note that all contractual references to the original event planner, Arlena Dovey, remain legally valid unless terminated in writing by said planner. Any alteration without consent will be formally disputed. I pressed send, closed the laptop, and for the first time in weeks, sat back and let the silence work for me. The email came late Sunday night, a friendly reminder about the bridal shower brunch at the club. I wasn't on the original list. Someone must have added me after remembering I was still technically the one footing the bill for half of it. I knew what showing up would look like. Desperate, difficult, out of place. I showed up anyway. Neutral dress, no jewelry, hair pulled back. The kind of look that says, "I'm not here to make trouble, but I'm not here to disappear either." The country club's event room was polished to the point of pretension. White linens, fake smiles, and women who mastered passive aggression before they learned to bake. Marjorie stood at the center like a conductor, not so much directing as radiating control. I walked in unnoticed at first, but I noticed what mattered. No name card at the family table, no space cleared. Just a small chair tucked at the edge, marked "Guest Contributor, Arlena Dovey," right between the sponsor placards and the dessert table. You know you've been reassigned when your name is no longer spoken, only billed. I took the seat. No complaints. Let them talk. It didn't take long. A woman from church leaned in close, whispered like we were co-conspirators. "You've been so generous, Arlena. The silent sponsor of all this, aren't you?" I didn't correct her. Another added, "Not many sisters would support like that. Selfless." Tamsin shifted in her seat. Said nothing. Marjorie raised her glass to toast a joke someone made about old-fashioned values. I smiled, bit the inside of my cheek until the pressure grounded me. I used to think silence was maturity. Now I know it's camouflage. And they used mine to hunt me. The napkin in front of me, pressed and printed. "Guest Contributor." I folded it once, slid it into my purse. Didn't look back. Near the refreshment table, I saw Elowen, the planner. She caught my eye, paused, then drifted toward me with the caution of someone approaching a sleeping dog they used to kick. "I didn't know they'd replace you like this," she murmured. I kept my tone calm. "You were told I stepped back for health reasons?" She nodded, embarrassed. "Your mother said it was too much for you, that you wanted Tamsin to take over." Of course she did. That lie cut deeper than the theft. Because pretending I agreed, that was erasure disguised as empathy. I didn't argue, just said, "I'll need the full communications archive sent to my personal email." She nodded again. No eye contact. They took everything, then pinned the ribbon of choice on me. The toast started soon after. Everyone was called to attention. I stood, walked to the head table, didn't rush, laid the folded napkin, my napkin, on Tamsin's plate. "I won't be staying," I said, loud enough for the room to go still. "You don't need a sponsor anymore. Just someone who doesn't mind being the spectacle." Tamsin stood. Half a word escaped before she swallowed it. Her eyes searched mine for softness. Marjorie didn't flinch. This could have been handled more privately, dear. I didn't raise my voice. You already made it public, I said. I'm just making sure it's accurate. Then I left. Later that evening, I sat at my kitchen table with tea gone cold. My phone buzzed with notifications I ignored until one caught my eye. A post on a private community forum. No name attached. Why was the original bride asked to sit with the vendors? The comments came fast. Some polite, some not. I didn't reply. I didn't even click like. I just stared at the screen, listening to the quiet creak of something large beginning to shift. The first sound of a falling dynasty is never thunder. It's the soft slip of a napkin hitting a plate. I arrived before anyone else. Walked into that community center like I was still on the guest list. Like I hadn't already been recast in their little production. The setup looked like every other local event we'd ever hosted. Drapes pinned too tight, chairs arranged like soldiers, floral centerpieces trying too hard to feel effortless. In the center, a head table with embossed place cards and a TV screen set up for blessing videos. I didn't see my name anywhere, not on the printouts, not on the run sheet, not even on the seating map taped beside the entrance. Didn't need to. You don't have to be removed by force when they know how to erase you in formatting. Someone offered me a water bottle. I took it without speaking. Everyone else who walked in smiled like I was part of the decor, neutral, silent, inconvenient but not disruptive. Marjorie floated by with a half hug and a too loud, "Just enjoy, honey." She didn't slow down. When the lights dimmed, the room hushed. The video began, soft music, a slide with "From Our Loved Ones." Anna's high school drama teacher came on first, crying about how radiant she'd been since childhood. A neighbor followed, offering a story about Anna lending out a hairdryer during a power outage. Then Tamsin's clip played. Twice. Different outfits. Same tone. Family is everything. I sat still. Didn't blink. Didn't shift. Someone behind me whispered, "Didn't Arlena record one too?" The MC hesitated, then smiled tightly. "We had some technical issues." "Sure you did." I didn't say a word. I looked toward the AV table, saw the open laptop, the video playlist. My name was there. File grayed out, unchecked. They didn't delete me. They muted me. I stood and walked out, silent. Every eye followed. No one moved to stop me. Outside, the hallway was colder than I expected. The hum of the AC unit echoed. Marjorie's voice came first. "That was childish. We don't need a scene." I turned to her, calm. "You made the scene. I just left the performance." She tried to steady herself. "This isn't how family handles disagreement." I stared her dead in the face. "Family doesn't write you out of a script you paid to produce." She opened her mouth, but nothing came. Tamsin rounded the corner next. She looked between us, froze. I didn't speak to her. I walked past both. Let them stand in that empty hallway where no stage lights reached. I drove to a cafe instead of going home, found a quiet table by the window, ordered nothing, opened my laptop, pulled up my original video file, the one they muted, attached it to an email titled, "Correction for the Record, Personal Distribution." Sent it to the full guest list. All I wrote was, for those who didn't get to hear my message, it wasn't due to tech errors. I didn't insult, didn't explain, just pressed send. Within an hour, replies came in. "That was beautiful. Why wasn't this played? I thought something was missing." Silence may be their tool, but so is precision. I shut my laptop, sipped the cold water I forgot I'd ordered. Later that night, my phone buzzed with an email notification. A vendor accidentally CC'd me on a chain meant for Marjorie and Tamsin. Subject line, "Tomorrow's chair switch confirmation. Arlena's seat removed from family table." The last line, "Let's ensure optics stay controlled." I stared at the screen. They weren't preparing a wedding. They were choreographing a disappearance. I didn't wear black. I wore taupe. Neutral, unbothered, unfashionable on purpose. Nothing tight, nothing dramatic. Just enough structure to say, I didn't come here by mistake. No one stopped me at the lawn gates. They didn't know how to. I walked through the rows of chairs like I was invisible, which to them I was, but they watched me all the same. Every whisper felt like a handshake behind my back. Every glance said, "She came anyway?" I nodded back at some of them, smiled, calm, slow. Tamsin stood near the arbor. She looked down when I passed. Marjorie? She didn't flinch, just stared ahead like she'd rehearsed how to ignore me in every lighting. I carried an envelope, unmarked, thin, tucked under my palm like a check, or a weapon. They thought I'd stay silent. I wasn't here to fight. I was here because silence needed a witness. When the speeches started, I didn't wait for my name. I walked to the gift table, took my time, set the envelope right on top of the silver-wrapped boxes and bows, addressed in clean black ink, "For the family that forgot." Then I walked to the mic, didn't clear my throat, didn't smile. No long speech, just clarity. This is the last check I'll ever write to fund anyone's illusion, including my own. No cry, no pause for applause. I stepped back, walked away. You could have heard a pin drop. Marjorie's lips parted. Nothing came out. Tamsin half-stepped toward me, then stopped. She knew I wasn't bluffing. A few guests clapped, hesitant, then stopped themselves. I didn't look back. Later that evening, I returned home to a box waiting on the porch. Brown cardboard, no return label, but I knew it before I even picked it up. It was the quilt, the one I hand-stitched for Marjorie when I was 17. Each square chosen carefully, months of work. She used to keep it on the guest room bed until she replaced it with a boutique spread she claimed was less sentimental. Now it was folded perfectly, clean. On top, a sticky note. Return to sender. I sat on the porch steps, rested the quilt in my lap. The sun dipped below the trees, slow and golden. Sometimes the clearest closure isn't a slammed door, it's a gently mailed rejection. I didn't cry. I didn't even sigh. I opened my laptop, typed a single line into the archive. They didn't just give me back my past. They reminded me not to ask them to hold it anymore. That night, a clip surfaced online. Someone had filmed the envelope moment. My walk. My words. In the background, you could hear Anna say, clear as day, "At least someone will finally have a decent wedding." And just like that, the internet erupted. Some said it was shade. Others said it was guilt. Some praised her. Some crucified her. I didn't weigh in. I didn't have to. I posted a photo. Just one. No caption, my folded napkin from the brunch, my sealed envelope from the ceremony, side by side on a wooden table. Then I added a line. Closure comes when you stop needing subtitles for other people's intentions. The comments came fast. You handled this with grace. This was real power. How many of us have swallowed this same silence? And then, the next morning, a courier knocked, neutral expression, manila envelope. Inside, a copy of the wedding asset distribution form. Still had my name listed as co-signer, still tied to the payment chain, and stuck to the top, a yellow sticky note. Mistaken delivery? I stared at it. No, I whispered. It wasn't a mistake. It was a reminder. I sat at the table, opened a new document. Formal notice of withdrawal, typed slowly, clearly, and this time, I signed my full name. The letter sat on my dining table for nearly an hour before I signed it. It wasn't angry, no threats, no legal jargon dressed up as venom, just plain language, professional, dated, notarized. I hereby terminate all financial and contractual ties with the Monroe wedding and its associated vendors, effective immediately. I had triple-checked the details, attached copies of the agreements, email records, and bank confirmations. I even included a thank you note to the vendors for their professionalism, for honoring my changes without asking why. This wasn't retaliation, it was reclamation. I slid the letter into a white envelope. No handwriting, no lipstick seal, just ink and fact. But I didn't mail it, not right away. Instead, I pressed my palm flat on the envelope, grounding myself, letting the quiet settle around me like a warm room after a storm. Sometimes we don't need closure, we just need clean lines. 2 days later, while picking up avocados I didn't need from the store down the block, I turned the corner into aisle 3 and found myself face to face with Tamsin. We both stopped. It was the kind of pause that belonged in a courtroom, not between siblings. I didn't know it would get this far, she started. I didn't let her finish. It didn't get this far, I said. It was always this far. We just stopped pretending. She looked down at her hands, twisting the strap of her purse. I'm sorry, she whispered, more to the tile than to me. I nodded. Not cold, just final. I hope you have a beautiful wedding, I told her. I mean that. I'm just not showing up to it wounded. Tamsin teared up, but she didn't argue, and that I respected. I turned, walked toward the registers, not victorious, not vindicated, just intact. That night, I lit a fire in my backyard, nothing ceremonial, just a small metal barrel I used for old receipts. I dropped them in one by one. RSVP cards with my name, guest lists I curated, a copy of the original invitation that read, Arlena Dovey family invite you. Ash rose, drifted, danced. You don't always get apologies. Sometimes you get ashes, and sometimes that's enough. The glow from the flames cast long shadows behind me. I stood there barefoot, quiet, deleted the wedding folder from my laptop, every image, every note, gone. But I didn't delete the archive. I renamed it. Not erased, archived. A few days passed. I booked a therapist session, the first one in months. I walked in with nothing but my keys and a bottle of water. We didn't talk about the wedding first. We talked about childhood. About the day I got a C in science and Marjorie said, You're more heart than mind. Let your sister lead. We talked about the time at the church talent show when I was told to sing softly so your sister can shine. What would you tell that little girl now? The therapist asked me. I didn't hesitate. Speak, I said, even if your voice shakes, even if they turn off the mic. Healing isn't about being louder. It's about not needing to whisper your truth anymore. That Saturday, I received a package, no return address, no name, just a padded envelope. Inside was the pink napkin, the one that labeled me guest contributor, the one I folded, pocketed, and walked out with weeks ago. This time, it was clean, pressed, laundered. No note. I placed it next to a picture frame on my shelf. Not one from a wedding. Not one from any event they planned. It was a photo from a summer picnic when I was 8. Me and my dad sitting on a blanket. Juice boxes. Dandelions. I had chocolate on my face. And I was smiling. Really smiling. Some things you return. Others you reclaim. And some you simply outgrow. This wasn't the end of my story. Just the end of the chapter they thought they were writing for me.